Traitors? Did anyone watch that?
I've watched the
Yeah,
first
I
one, so
watched
then
it.
tell me about the second, please.
So
I really
good.
enjoy the people that are on it. Yeah, me too. I'm excited about it, to be honest.
Have you seen who
Would you do
went
it?
first already,
No.
Kate? So have you seen
Oh,
who's went yet?
no. No, I'm on literally the
first
first
person.
episode and I'm about to
Oh,
watch the second.
okay. I won't say anything then.
Yeah,
Apart
guys,
from
come on.
gutted. Were you gutted, Jordan?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
no.
And then I was, obviously don't want to spoil it for Keats, but yeah, I was literally like, no. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that means someone good's gone.
Well, they're all good, aren't they? Would you do it, you two? Would you do it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
would.
so, yeah.
Yeah, it's just a fun game show.
I think you'd want to be a traitor, though.
Would you?
Do you not think you just get further? Like, yeah, but do you not just think you just, you do last a lot longer?
No, I can't lie. So I'd be like Alan Carr.
Yeah, he's terrible.
Sweating.
He's like the most nervous traitor I've ever seen. He's sweating. I really thought Celia would be a really good traitor though. I wish maybe they'll take her on as one because I think she'd be really good.
It was worth it just for all the memes of Alan Carr with the hood over the top. I just ruined it for everyone. Anyway,
you can get away with it with the jokes, though.
Yeah.
We'll
see, shall we? Episode 2.
Yeah.
Can he get away with it? Eh? No more. Right, welcome to Pitch Pod with WSL legends Nikita, always faithful, Parris, and Jordan. And now she's a traitor. I can't trust her at all. Don't look her in the eyes. Nobbs. Every week they bring you topics straight from the pitch to this podcast as we discuss the biggest talking points from the world of football, the WSL and beyond. This week we're settling, rotating and qualifying. First up, it can take 2 to 3 months to settle in. Did you just sneeze?
Sorry. Sorry. I couldn't even keep that in.
That was really, really delicate.
I was trying to be polite, but
definitely can be. Are you a 3 sneezer or just 1?
Normally 2, but it's good it's disappeared.
Okay. I can't wait for the second one. But it was perfect timing because you cover the embarrassment of me talking to Nikita about her boss saying that Chiara is going to take 2 to 3 months to settle in. I don't know if you heard this or this week. How long does it take to settle in to a club? Clearly, like other stuff can be going on for players as well outside. It's not always just about what's on the pitch. But do both of you think it can take that long to settle into take everything else away to settle into a new league, a new club, to really bed in?
Yeah. And 2 to 3 months is like really quick adaptation also if that happens for you.
Yeah.
Even 2 to 3 games is incredible. So people who have done that and really settled in straight away, fair play to them. But obviously I've moved from England to France and that was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done. And I'm quite an open, chatty, can have a laugh, banterous person, but I really struggled with the culture, the language change, I think I spoke about it before, generic things about literally going to a supermarket and going to a shop. It used to take me like 2.5 hours. I literally would be searching for strawberries, for the honey, looking for the yogurt, and people would be like, but it's in obvious places. But sometimes, at times, I was picking up cream cheese instead of yogurt. That is just so frustrating. And then above that, it's like you're going into training, and once you're on the football pitch, nothing else matters. Like that, you're settling straight away there because that's where you feel most connected to everyone around you. Is because you don't really need to talk, communicate. It just happens on the pitch for you. But anything off the pitch, honestly, it took me about 6 months. And I remember I was quite lucky as well at Lyon because I had Alex Greenwood, I had Lucy Bronze, I had Shanice van der Sanden, who was an amazing teammate. Like, bearing in mind, me and Shanice pretty much played the same position, and she was unbelievable. Like, could not speak highly of the girl because she made me settle in straight away. She was 2 lockers up from me. Anything I needed, she would guide me, help me, and so would the rest of the girls because they spoke English with me. So there was a big foreign culture in the team I went to. But honestly, beyond like at home and stuff, I just felt so alone. And I remember Alex coming, and I would spend every waking hour with Alex because I was just like, I just need someone to talk to. Like, I just need someone that understands what I'm going through. And luckily enough, it's Alex. She's from Liverpool. She understands like family is so important, and we used to do everything together. And if I didn't have Alex, honestly, I don't know how I would have got through it because it was hard. And I have a different appreciation for foreigners coming into our league and how long it takes to settle, and just the small things like maybe someone bringing in, or now we have like lunches at football, making sure it's like a Japanese meal if you've got a Japanese player. Like, just them small cultural differences make a massive difference, a massive one.
Yeah, the same as Keats, really. Obviously, I've not experienced, you know, not being in England, but it definitely takes time. And I think it's all the behind the scenes that no one sees. They just expect you to walk on the pitch, and you actually have a lot of other things going on. I mean, especially in the women's game, I think probably 90% of players that move clubs, they don't have their house sorted as soon as they move in. I don't think anyone just moves straight to another club and they're not in a hotel, in someone else's house, or Airbnb or whatever. I don't think it's ever um, you're not quite settled even the first few weeks. Keats, I'm sure you've had similar experiences with that. I guess my only experience is when I moved to Arsenal. Obviously, I was 17, and women's football back then was obviously like training twice a week. You training late at night, and it's quite similar to Keats's version of the isolation piece. You feel, you do need them people around you. Like I knew Steph Houghton, but obviously she was a bit older than me. And I think that's always the hard part. I think the football, you just keep your head down. You know, you're there for a reason to improve as much as you can. But I think all the other side of it is a lot tougher, and you have to mentally be quite strong with that because it is hard. It's hard leaving your comfort zone or people and things like that to move to another club.
Yeah, it is, George. It is so hard. And both the teams we went into at them times are highly regarded teams. Teams are winning teams. So you don't even have time like on the pitch to settle in because expectation is you come and you deliver straight away because ultimately these you want to win. The club wants to win every game, every trophy that they're available for. So it's so hard to then try and adapt to like a different way of playing, a mindset change. Like, honestly, when I went into Leon, I would have thought that would have been the hardest dressing room to go into because of the personalities, the quality of player, what they'd won, like, I don't know, 7 Champions Leagues in a row. It was just like a town where they was just on fire. Um, and I thought, wow, this is going to be a tough changing room to go into. Like, I didn't really know what to expect. When I went in there, I was like, wow, yous are just, what a really nice changing room. Like, everyone else's perception of what it takes to be winners and like how you have to be ruthless, this, that. In the changing room, it just was like so comfortable. Like, they tried to speak English with me. I tried to speak French. I was laughing at myself. As time went on, them being so open and just creating more than just a teammate, more like a friendship, helped me settle in more and more. And after like 6 months, I don't know what happened, but everything changed for me. Like, I no longer feared having to learn French, having to understand, because when we went into meetings, the coach would only speak French. So you had to adapt fast, which kind of helped because you get to used to listening to certain things consistently, and then you understand and you can relate to what they're trying to talk about. So that helped. But the more settled I'd become off the pitch, I was more open to the rest of it, and that really helped. After a while, I was like, And I can say the coach that I had, John Luke, he was amazing too. He would really take the time out to help, and he understood it wasn't just about football, it was about me as a person. And he got to know my family and why I was so connected. And it really helped his understanding of me, and taking that time out to know the human being rather than just the player helped settle me in so much more. And yeah, over time, I would say like from the March, I was like, okay, I'm settled. I no longer want to get every time there's an off day, I no longer want to jump on a flight home or get someone to come over to stay with me for the month, which is not realistic because they've got jobs too. So yeah, it was a good team to go into, and it was an unbelievable experience, and I'm glad I did it, but it was so hard at the start.
At the weekend, we were talking about this on the show, and they were like, try and be a bit devil's advocate. And we were trying to make the comparison between, if a surgeon changes countries, jobs, walks in and has to perform life-saving surgery, right? They have to get on and do it in that moment. They've got no time to adapt. And clearly football is not surgery, but it means as much to you when you've got everything changing behind. And that's why I dropped the caveat in about, you don't know what's going on behind. If it was just like pure basics, get on the pitch, the language of football is all the same, and you've come from being the most expensive player in the world, take that tag away, whatever it is, just get on the pitch and play. But it's never as easy as that, is it? It's never as simple as that. And I think it's so important why you two come on and talk in the way you do. And I always say it to any guest that we get on the telly, you're the gold dust, because we can sit there and we can have opinions and we can think about it and we can almost be keyboard warriors, but ask the questions about it. But we've never lived in that situation and been in that moment. It's going to be different for everyone. And yet, I think several times you said on this podcast before, you're not blooming machines. You don't just put a plug in the back of you and away you go and you'll play football. And yet there's so much expectations wherever you are, and every situation is going to be different. That said, how is Grace, and how are you as like teammates helping her settle in and trying to do that stuff to help?
Yeah, she's settling in well, and I think the expectation of when you move country, Grace come at the very end of a window. That's also very difficult, because if she would have come at the start of the pre-season, then she had a whole pre-season to be able to interact, to settle in. But bearing in mind, she come at the end of the window, which means that it's very difficult to create connections. Also, when your English isn't perfect, and she's actually improving in English, and she can speak the basics, but obviously it'll take time for her to understand the language, and also our interpretation of how we say things is very different. She's got many different parts of the English language in that dressing room. Also, bearing in mind I'm a Scouser, she's probably thinking I'm speaking Scottish or Irish because she can't understand I'm speaking so fast. So I have to learn to slow down, and sometimes the girls are like, why are you talking so slow? And I'm like, oh, because obviously there's foreigners in the changing room also, so when you're speaking to them you have to slow down, but obviously when you're speaking to another English player you can speak and interact differently. And I think they're the little changes that you have to make to allow people to feel comfortable. And ultimately you just have to ask them how they're doing. She's probably fed up with everyone going, are you okay, are you settled, do you need this, do you need that? But you've just got to constantly remind the new players that there are people there available to help, and if they ever need anything, like a text away, a phone call away. And ultimately it also helps Grass and also other players when you have coaches who speak their language. Like Joss is obviously French, and he has a few French coaches in our team that can also, it's nice to be able to communicate in your own language at times, because that helps you also feel settled and understand. So yeah, it'll take a little bit of time, but I think for the time she's been in, she's settled well and she's doing well. And yeah, I think sometimes the expectation of being the price that she came at, she can't control that. Also, that's not she's not saying you better buy me for that price. It's like, it is what it is. It is the market at this point, and all she can do is do her best. And I think that's what she does when she steps on the pitch, and over time she'll get better and better and better. And yeah, I think it's really important that we don't put too much expectation on players based on the price tag, based on the name that they've got within the footballing world. Just see them as a human being who's literally changed their whole lifestyle and culture and language and left the home comforts of family, and she's here trying to settle, and she came straight in and had to play the season really. So yeah, I think give the girl time,
Yeah.
please. Please give her time.
It's similar sort of situation, Jordan, in that you go to Newcastle, like you've been looking for a new house, you've been sorting all the move out and everything as well, and you can speak the language, right? But you're doing that, but you've also got expectation on your shoulders going to Newcastle. You're seen as the big signing going in, this expectation to lift them and win promotion too. Does that, like, do you feel that?
Yeah, you definitely put high expectations, I guess, that land on yourself, whether that's through media or, you just know the situation. So it is always difficult. I think you do think, I need to prove a point here and, be at my best every single game. It definitely, I wouldn't say it weighs on me, but it is a thought process in your head, where, when I've went there, I'm wanting to be a player that helps the team get promoted. So it does play on your mind, I think, well, like Keats will know, we're both very competitive. So, lose or draw, you are disappointed and you do look at yourself and think, how can I help more, or how can I be better, and everything like that. So yeah, it definitely still impacts you. I'm very lucky that it is obviously an English club, which helps. But again, there's still always a lot going on. I think, whether that is moving, getting to know the girls. We're obviously in a period where the club's trying to grow, but obviously it's not quite there yet. And you're adapting lots of different things behind the scenes. Is this, does it work better doing this schedule, or does it work doing training loads like this, and everything like that? Style of play. There's a lot going on with a club than just, what, we'll sign a few players in the summer and then, bish bash bosh, you top of the league. It doesn't always go that smoothly. So there's lots of conversations and inputs you have as players, and obviously I'll always give my input to try and help the team or what I've seen has worked at other clubs. But that doesn't take away the energy that everyone at a club is putting in to try and improve the club and push it to the best level.
Yeah, you're right, Judd. I think people forget that this is an individual sport. So, as a team sport, it's everyone's individual role is trying to come together to make the team tick. And there's so many different cogs to the machine that if one in one area, if it isn't quite working, it does affect the rest further down. And I think you have to understand, there's so many different personalities, cultures, rhythms, and you talk about training loads, training programs, what days you have off. You know, people's schedules have totally changed from having maybe a Monday and a Thursday off to now having a Monday and a Friday, or maybe a Tuesday and a Friday. And everyone will think, oh, but it's days off and it's just a training program and you can just adapt. But your body, it gets used to certain ways, and then you have to, might be a total different change of cycle for you. And it obviously takes time to get into the new rhythm. And yeah, all of these little things that you don't think about if you're, on the outside, but on the inside, you understand that everything may take a little bit longer than you think, and for some players, even longer, and it's trying to find that balance that makes it work for everyone. And can you do that? Everyone's trying to find that solution, aren't they?
Can I ask you both what you want from media coverage? And like, I say that in all sincerity. As players, you want analysis of the game, but then I don't know, there's a ricket by a goalkeeper, or something goes really wrong with an official, or what is it you want to see from analysis? And I know this is both difficult because you're both on a podcast for Sky and you both want to do media stuff, but I really think there's an opportunity to kind of change the landscape in what we're showing, what we're talking about, and what we're saying.
No, I think the most interesting thing about sport is opinion, because ultimately everyone's opinion's different and everyone sees the game or the sport very, very differently, and that's okay. Like, that is okay, and I think you have to be honest with your assessment of what you see. Give your opinion, but understand that there's so many other versions to that opinion that can also be the truth. Like, no one person's opinion is definitive. There's so many other unexpected or things you don't know about a person's performance. That is the human side. So you've got the football side, you've got the human side, and ultimately everyone else is education. You Sometimes I watch programs or sport shows and I'm being educated about the game, the psychology part, whether it's, you know, the social part of how a person can settle into a team. There's like so many different elements to sport, and I think, of course, we want people to have an opinion and also a difference of opinion, because what you may see on the game might be different to how I see it, because I'm more connected in terms of I understand the day-to-day processes that happen for the team to run, but it's also important to get a outside view that allows people to understand what the consumer sees, if that makes sense. And I guess that's what makes sport exciting, and it's important that everyone's opinion is valid. And that's the one thing I think about. It's okay to have an opinion, but also understand that, like we spoke about last week, there's a line to that opinion. You can't overstep your boundary and then it turns into abuse, because ultimately people are only doing the best that they can do in that moment and they should never go beyond that. But of course, we want people's opinion. We want to understand, like when you have ex players on your show, they'll give you an inside view of how a player would feel in that moment, and that's also valid. So yeah, of course we want your opinion, and then we want the game to grow. And in order for the game to grow, we need to see the areas that we need to improve in, that we might not be, but might not be able to see in that moment, or we might not think of.
Yeah, I think honesty is the main one. Like, I obviously love like all that side of it, the tactical. And I think if you're given an opinion and you can back it with facts or clips or information of why you've said that, the viewer then can see your logic behind it, whether they agree or not. That's okay. The same as the player listening to it. I don't agree. That wasn't how I felt in the moment. Um, but I think the honesty with the facts with it is, well, that's their opinion. They're showing why it's their opinion, and I think that's what as viewers you want to see. Like, whenever it's halftime, like when I'm watching football, I always stay and watch the halftime chat because I'm like, oh, wonder what their opinion is. I want to know, oh, what do they think of how the team was or who did well. Just to hear what they're saying and seeing.
Have you ever changed anything, either of you, based on what someone has said?
What do you mean, a commentator?
Yeah, on telly.
Do you want me to tell you the truth?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Brilliant.
I think ultimately, no. I think ultimately the only person opinion that truly matters are your teammates, your manager, and your own, because they are the three opinions that help you become a better player, better teammate, and ultimately help the team, because that's what you want. That's what you're there to do. What someone else says on the other side of that, yeah, is helpful, of course. Maybe someone sees it different to how the manager sees it, but ultimately he's picking the squad every week. So, Caroline, if you're telling me, Nikita, as a winger, I need you high and wide staying on the back line, and I've got my manager saying, actually, I need you to occupy the pocket and stay in there to allow the fullback to get higher, who do you think I'm going to listen to?
You're not seeing my football badges.
I'm obviously going to listen to the manager. Like, that's just how it is. But it's not to say that your opinion isn't valid, because maybe in that game you saw that actually the team's blocking central, so why would you add another number central? Why don't you keep them wide and get early crosses into the box? And do you know what I mean? Like, everyone's got their opinion of how they see the game and how they want the game to be played, and how they see another team like progressing in that game to win it. But ultimately, the tactics and who you're playing for are done by the manager, so that's who you listen to.
This kind of actually follows on, Jordan, from what we were just saying, because I keep hearing this word rotation used, like in football punditry, and it's almost become not like a swear word, but it's become like a comfort word, overused potentially. And I sort of wonder, what does it even mean? Because Renee Slegers was talking about how she prepares her team, Arsenal, in blocks. So she lets players know this next block of football's coming up and I'm either going to use you or I'm not going to use you, or this is how I'm using the squad. So we say rotation like it's almost like resting and moving, but it's a tactical thing, right? Is that how you feel about it? You're looking at who you've got to play coming up. You're looking at what your players are as the best assets. And yeah, it might have something to do with their load and managing that. But I don't know when rotation sort of became like a dirty word, or a sort of coaches are using it as a... Coaches not using it as an excuse, but maybe in punditry we're using it as an excuse. And I just kind of wonder where you both sit on it.
I think when football became more professional and squads became bigger, that's when rotation became a thing. I think, a few years ago, you didn't have the big squads you have, and you didn't have the games you have, that we've added in, like group Conti Cup games and more Champions League games. And I think now it is, you need to use your players, but there's a very fine line. I suppose you can talk, again, opinions all day on this. I've been in an Arsenal team where we've rotated and it hasn't benefited, and then I've been in a team where it's just stayed, exactly the same, but then, you have got players that aren't getting any minutes, and it's tough. So it's a very fine line. I think, yeah, I'm kind of on the fence with it, because I'm like, for example, like the main thing, right, people do now is, Conti Cup games, right? We'll change the squad and everyone will get a rotation in, and then you need them players to play and get minutes, and it's technically the best time to do it, because most managers are focused on the league. But then, it's also, well, how do them players feel being like just a cup game player to a certain extent? But then also, it's actually giving them the opportunity. You could play that same team again that you've played in the league, but you're allowing that opportunity to get game time and play players. And I think in the league now, like both leagues, I think you have to have more players on board and get them on the pitch when you can. I think whether that's 60th minute and to be like a super sub, or because players just can't play every minute of every game now, and you don't want a player not playing for 5, 6, 7 games and then they're thrown in and expected to be the best player possible.
I think, personally, in order to get to the end of every competition, if you're thinking, I want to be in the Champions League, I want to be finalist in the FA Cup, Conti Cup, and then you've got players also playing internationally, which then will be, if you're top 3, top 4 club in across Europe's leagues, then you're going to have a lot of internationals. So then you've got to take into account that they're going to play into a lot of international football too. I think it's challenging managers in a way that they've not had to in the women's game before, because ultimately there's more games now. But is there enough games to have a big squad? That's what I would question. I think the league in England is still only 22 games. There has to be more games. In order to truly utilise a big squad to its best effective way, I think you need more games to be able to rotate, because ultimately, if you rotate too much, then you never really get a set squad in form where majority of players are playing at their highest level, which means that it's very difficult for players to be stop-start. Okay, I'm in for 3 games. Okay, now I'm out for a game, maybe 2 games, then I'm back in. Like Jordan said, it's very hard to in order to get consistency, you need consistent minutes, which is a challenge for players, especially if you're in a team where there's 2 and 3 players to that position, which squads want now, right, man? Clubs want 2 and 3 top players in positions so that if there is an injury, if there is a certain game that you want to change the tactics, whether you want to go, you know, more of a counter attack, and so you go for speed on your wings, or you go for more possession and then you bring your winger inside and you create the box and you be more technical. Not every player has each, I don't know, kind of technique in their arsenal. So that's why you do have different players and a lot of them. But I think, like Jordan said, there's a very, very fine line between rotation and being able to get consistency in your squad. Which, if it works, you go, that's unbelievable rotation. But when it doesn't work, it's like, should you have really rotated? Can you really win in that argument? I guess you just have to win games. And once you're winning, then you can be like, well, the rotation's working, you know? So it must be very hard for clubs to try and find the balance. And yeah, I like Jordan said also, you don't want to be just a cup player because they come around every 4 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks. Say the Conti Cup is, winter, and then the FA Cups, you're going into the spring, the summer. So yeah, I think it's very hard to find a balance. I sit on the fence also. What do you as a commentator think about rotation? Because obviously we're players and we know, we understand it's part of our game, and you get influenced by, you know, the higher up saying we need it, we need players in all, like we need the rotation to be able to compete and wherever, and you kind of just get on board because you want to win. But what do you think about it?
Sure, I wonder, and we probably all, without saying it, know some of the players that we could slot in right now and say their names of. It's the gossip that feeds around it. So there becomes like this vacuum. Oh, why is she not starting? Why is she only getting minutes here? Is she injured? Does she want to leave the club? Is she out of favour? And then suddenly they appear and they start playing. Well, why are they now playing? You can clearly see how good they are. But if the player's been told the whole way along, I'm only going to play you in this block, or they've got a little niggly injury, so that's why they're going to play. So I'm kind of torn in this. People feel the vacuum and it becomes like Gossip Girl all over again. They're just inserting these, and that's what I find difficult. But then if you're a manager or a club, you're playing these teams coming up, so why are you going to reveal your hand and say, okay, well, I'm saving them for this block of games, or they've got an injury at the moment, that's why they're only getting a few minutes and then I'm playing them there. Or equally, like we've seen before, something's happening off the pitch that I'm protecting that player, so I'm going to say they've got a little injury or this is happening. So it's people try and fill the void with news. That's the sort of level of gossip nature that I think sometimes clubs could be a bit more honest on what's happening with injuries or how they're playing them. However, that being said, we need more games. You're right. Now they're trying to fix that by putting 2 more teams into the league, but that's still not going to be enough. So, but then you can't suddenly put 10 more teams in the league, and is it all right that those 8 of those 10 might get thrashed 6-7-0 each week? It's such a hard balance. Clearly that's where we need to be, is more teams, but it's then finding that balance between it, isn't it? Because not everyone's going to play to the latter stages of the cup competitions.
No, but I also think we have enough depth in quality, and the league is renowned now worldwide enough to have at least 4 more teams. At least, because then that enables, especially if you have owners of clubs who want to invest in their teams. So it's all right, like having a system where 2 go down, 2 come up, and it allows for more teams. Well, if those teams that come up are actually not teams who are getting heavily invested in, then it kind of doesn't service the whole plan of making the league better, because ultimately It's the potential of, well, if you're not going to invest, then you're not going to have the players and the depth and quality to be able to compete. So you are going to get thrashed.
But is it all right to have two teams that are pointless at the moment, for example, at the bottom of the table? They're not getting thrashed every week. You know, they're in games, they lose by a goal here or a goal there. Would you still rather have that and add two more to it? You think there's four of quality within the league below to make that up?
There's a standard requirement of what you have to invest in in a team to in order to compete in the WSL. That's both players, across the board, because ultimately you can't then just go, okay, we're gonna hire the amount of the wages of the players, we're gonna bring in better players, but then medically we're gonna take from that to allow for that. Like, it can't be, I'm gonna take from this area to provide for that area, because then ultimately the team is not in a better position just because you've got better players, but you've got a poor medical. How are you keeping them players on the pitch? Like, this is the balance. This is what I get frustrated at with teams that are in the WSL. Like, okay, great, you're paying your unbelievable wages to your players, or some of your players, and the gap between top to bottom is like quite big, let's be honest. And then we're going, your medical is people who've just come out of university. Not to say that they can't have them jobs, but they should not be the head of your performance. They should not be the heads in their field if they just come off a 3-year course in university. Like, there has to be a standard of requirement and a level of accountability and for these within these areas of your team, if that makes sense. Because I think ultimately, you, as I said before, you can't take from one area and put into another, because it doesn't allow across the board for your team to be able to compete. Because then how are you keeping your players on the pitch? You might have some of the best players in the world, but they're sitting on your bench or in your stands for months on end because medically you can't get them right. Then how does that help the team? You know? But there has to be a level of requirement that you have to put into the team, funding, resources, support, in the WSL. Because no, we shouldn't have teams still on 0 points in the league, in the current standings. But then, as you say, look at the history over the last 4 or 5 years. There's been a steady decline for for them two teams, where funding isn't quite there yet. So then you are going to struggle, especially when you've got other teams coming into the league willing to invest, willing to put the money where their mouth is, and, you know, ultimately pushing the team forward. You're not going to be able to compete.
Rotation's only not going to become a thing when the standard of the league, when you've got enough games to play, when you can get everyone to a point that you're satisfying all those players. Because it's got to be blooming annoying. It's got to be blooming annoying, isn't it, for players as well, just to be slotted in. How you get any rhythm. And we all know good players, Jordan, who need rhythm. Like, I would argue defenders, strike, you need to be playing week in, week out, just to get your eye in, or to, like, at both ends of the pitch, all areas of the pitch.
You know, naturally, I think wingers and strikers, they're like the first to be rotated. So like it actually probably affects Keats more than sometimes the midfield or the defenders. But actually, it's kind of like reverse psychology, because how many times do you say we want our striker scoring goals? We want rhythm. You know, how many goals have they scored in 5 games? And then, you know, it's like, well, you've changed the winger twice. You've got different players assisting you, and then, you know, naturally all of us go, oh well, she's not scored in 7 games or something like that. And it's like, well, it plays a part, doesn't it? You know, wingers alone are very different. They can be 1v1. They can be like pocket tens. There can be different types of crosses of the ball. So I think that's always one that it's kind of like some people say one thing and then it's like, well, yeah, we're trying to adapt again now. And I think that's obviously the area of the pitch that, Keith, you'll probably know more than me, that gets kind of hurt first sometimes when it's changing your team.
Yeah, and also, you're right, George, and people say, but she's not scoring, so why don't you sub her? But ultimately, ultimately managers see their players every single day. they know what this player can produce. So it's like, okay, it might not be happening now, but if I show her confidence and show her that I believe in her and I'm gonna give her time and I believe what with that she will produce, then we've got to understand that. And also it's very difficult when, like Jordan said, when your wingers change and whether your 10's changing, because then how your service from that 10 is very different. So you can't create connections with players in the team. And then when it changes, you've got to get, and obviously that's football and, but it also takes time. And yeah, they say, oh, well, why don't you just swap your wingers around at 60 minutes? And that's what teams are trying. They're trying to do that, to create rotation, to allow more players to get minutes. But then you don't see the end product and the result of games and them not scoring as many goals as they was. But that's because you're asking for rotation, you're asking for players to be played. But then you've got to understand there's going to be a repercussion somewhere else, because ultimately these players need time to be able to produce the connection, the camaraderie, the understanding, whether it is against a team that you perceive that's lower than them, so they should be scoring more goals, or a team that you're competing with, so you've got to take that one chance when you get it. It's not as easy as that. Like, that's not football. Like, if you do want rotation in your squad and you want to see as many players play in the game, which is very difficult. I mean, we've gone from 3 to now 5 subs, which also helps with rotation and being able to get more players on the pitch. But you've got to think of the whole balance of the squad also. So there's so many things and that managers have to think about, and it's just not as cutthroat or as easy as to say, just change your winger at 60 minutes and, we'll get more energy on the pitch and we'll create more goals or more goal scoring opportunities. Because you might put that winger on the pitch and they might not have had a run of games. They might be, coming off the back of an injury. They might not have had many minutes playing with that 9 or that number 10 or even the fullback behind them. So they don't know whether does the fullback overlap them to create space on the inside for them to come or create a 2v1, or does the fullback just stay behind it and allow it to go 1v1. There's so many, things to think about as a manager, and they're not always going to get it right. I'm sorry, but they're not.
And here was me thinking my tactical analysis was better than yours. Right, lastly this week, we'll have a quick touch on going international. Hello to our listeners in Guadeloupe. I don't know if we have listeners in Guadeloupe. Anyway, it's time to say goodbye and hello. Millie Bright has announced she's off, retiring from international football. I wanted to give you both a chance to say goodbye to Millie. I mean, clearly you can just pick up the phone and do that. She's not leaving anywhere else. Serena has named her latest squad, and there's plenty to talk about with that too. Jordan, what do we say about Millie?
I mean, what a player and a person. She calls me Little Bean, and I call her Big Bean. And I just think she's just an angel. I think what she brings to a team, like her humour, and everything like that. Obviously, her and Rachel Daly, as a pair, and just think what Millie's done for the game. Just being a rock at the back. Not only being a good leader and not afraid to speak in meetings and have a voice to improve the game. But I think as a player, yeah, she's played a lot of games and it shows because she's resilient and knows how to be one of the best in a team. I think Millie Bright's probably the first on your team sheet in every Chelsea squad I've seen, and it shows exactly why she's played so many games for England, and we're all very proud of her, and I hope that she knows that from all of us that she's played such a key part in it all.
Yeah, she's played a massive part, and I think she's came through the development of the England squad over the last 8 to 10 years. I remember when Millie first came into the squad, I think we came in at the same time, and I think she's been, as Jordan said, a real rock and a leader in the team. And she said, I read about leaving the shirt in a better place than she found it, and I think ultimately she's done that. She can be immensely proud of everything that she's put into the game, both at a club level. She's a serial winner, and now internationally she's helped develop a squad to go on and win games and win tournaments, and she's been a part of that. And I think yeah, like I said, she can be a mental part of a contribution, for sure.
I hope you both, when you ever decide to retire officially from, say, internationals, that we come and make a song and dance about it, because I know Sue Smith never officially retired, so she never got that moment. She never got her own podcast saying, I'm retiring, right? So, Keats, if there's anything ever in like 10 years from now you want to say,
Yeah.
just let us know and we'll make it happen. We'll make it happen. Just briefly on that, Maya Tissier, I don't know if you've seen Serena Wiegman. It might be difficult because you both want to be in the England squad, right? But Serena Wiegman said that she still sees her not as that centre back where she's been consistently playing. She's acknowledged that she sees a place for Manchester United consistently as well, but she sees her as a right back for us. But she knows she can play centre back too. It's kind of, you just do one for the team, as it were.
I think all Maya has to continue to do is perform at the levels that she is currently doing, and whether you're seen as a right back doesn't mean that if an opportunity opens up at centre back, she won't be available for it. If Serena can see that she's consistently performing with England at right back and also for the club at centre back, it gives her more option and more scope to get more minutes. I don't see I don't think it's a bad thing for Maya to be good in both positions, because its versatility. It allows you to have an opportunity to play in both positions. So all Maya has to do is stay focused on football, stay focused on, you know, what she can produce each and every week for club, and when she gets a chance internationally and taking it. Because it's not like Serena isn't selecting it into a squad. So she'll be able to see it, and May performing in training and performing in matches. It it just builds up that credibility, and I think all she has to do is continue to focus on herself, and she's doing a great job. Both being a young captain for Manchester United and going into England and trying to push herself into getting more minutes. Yeah, just keep working, keep your head down. Your time will come.
If I was Maya and I play centre half for my club week in, week out, but my international manager is seeing me as a right back, I still think that's very, very tough, because naturally, if you're Maya and you end up playing right back for England, you're going happy days, like we all will. Everyone wants to play on that pitch. But I think if you never get that opportunity to play in a position that you've been doing really well in, it is very, I do think that's difficult to kind of like, when's the conversation where it's like, look, you've never actually seen me in my position.
And Jordan, I'll counteract that. For most of my all of my England career, I played as a right winger, but I was a 9 for my club. For Everton, Manchester City, Lyon, I was a number 9, but I played as a right winger during that whole time.
But I agree with that, right? I agree with, like, I've played under Max Sampson, I played as a right winger, like in front of Lucy Bronzer, got tucked
Mhm.
inside, like literally played as a winger. But we were allowed that opportunity. Like, how many games has May played at right back? Do you know what I mean, though? It's like you kind of want the opportunity somewhere, though, to at least like have a go. Whereas I think if you're waiting for the opportunity that you in the position you don't play at, it's like 10 times harder. Because I think you're all happy to play at club, and that, like, Rachel Daly's obviously done it, like, won a Euros being a number 9 and then playing as a left back, and, you know, I'm sure she wanted to just be on the pitch and perform. But I think there's like, I think if you're starting in a position, then you get to know that role, and, you know, you develop it in an international level, then, you know, that's okay. But I think if you don't get any minutes, and as a player, you're waiting for minutes, but in a different position to what you play, I do think that's quite tough.
But I guess internationally, you're coming up against also you're competing with players who are also competing at a very high level. So players in them centre half positions who are ahead of her right now is a very tough challenge to be able to, push them out. I'm not saying Maya hasn't performed and is not available to have the opportunity to play in that position, but she's also competing with a lot of good players, both in the back position and also as a centre half. And Maya's young. I mean, I know it's frustrating and that people say, "Oh, she's young," and you can only ever show your talent and get if you're given an opportunity. But she's got time and she's showing consistently at a club level. It's only a matter of time before she gets that opportunity internationally.
Did you hate it, Keats, playing in the position for England as opposed to?
I would have. Do you know what? I would have loved to be able to play as a 9 for England during a period in which I was playing consistently as a 9 for my club, because then I would have been able to know, take my game to a new level. International football is a totally different level to club football. It's like, it's where you play against the best teams, the best players, and you can. But ultimately, I was super happy to play in whatever position the manager would have put me on to play for England, because it's the highest honour of pride to be able to represent your country. And of course, it's frustrating if you're not playing in a position you want, but if you're getting minutes on a pitch for England, you're taking it. You are taking it. And then everyone just sees me as a right winger, okay? Then I have to be better and perfect my game as a right winger to prove, because ultimately I was also competing with top players in the front line consistently throughout my whole England career. To get into a starting 11 for England is hard, never mind a squad of 23. You're competing with like the best players in the country. It's not going to be easy. And it's obviously not easy as a manager to pick also the starting 11. You want to make it as difficult as possible. And you want to continue just to keep performing at the best you can. And, you do your talking on the pitch and allow others to do the talking off the pitch for you. But you've got to continue just to stay at that level, consistently making a challenge, consistently making it hard for the manager to make a decision. That's your job. Stick to that. Stick to playing, letting your football do the talking. The rest will take care of itself.
Well,
I
I'm sorry
believe.
I got picked over you time and time again. I don't know what they saw in
Jordan,
me.
now was it being a right winger?
Rolling down the wing. That would have been me. Star jumps.
I remember Jordan as a right winger.
Do you remember that? To be fair, I ended up like loving
I
it. It's
do,
like
John.
you said, like you do just adapt. When it's an England shirt, you don't care. Like you actually don't care. Like I agree on your point with Mia, like the young, she the talent that is above her right now it's tough. So you'd prefer to have an option of 2 areas. I think it's just also thinking about the player being like, when do I get that chance to prove one direction a little bit, to then kind of, like you said, Keith, you want to adapt your role and settle in, but you need the opportunity to eventually, I suppose, start that if you're not playing at a club level.